Exploit it. So I want to create a whole nother thing where I'm away from it. Plus, they be trying to sabotage the show sometimes. It's crazy. What's up, y'all? 1 second. What's up, y'all? We on Super Heru Radio. I'm your host, Heru. I hope you're all well. What is this today? What is Monday? Yeah, Monday, the 20th. It actually feels like a Friday, right? Like a Friday or like a Sunday, right? That's what it kind of feels like for me. We in the house with some friends that came and checked us out. One from New York. My other homie is here. The beautiful baby, little Lemuria. Say peace to her. And you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for coming in and holding us down. It's been a crazy 2.5 weeks. Well, a week and a half since all of this crazy stuff started happening in terms of the most obvious satanic ritual in history. I don't know about you, but to reiterate the obvious, we just want you to know that this thing that's going down is really kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. So, of course, the media is going to create their hype and put their thing in what it's really going to be or what they're going to propose it to be. But in reality, it's not. Something totally else is going on, and we've been breaking it down as thoroughly as we can based upon what I could divine or what we could kind of glean from that, as well as different people we have as, let's say, correspondents out there gathering intel that's in that so-called world. Because a friend of mine, big up my man Jerry, put me on to something that, just because these people is in certain things and some of these people have forced themselves or have believed that they're in that arena, political, army, navy, whatever, there are some of us that's in there that's on some spooky sapphire the door shit. And even though we don't necessarily always see their efforts, we still have to acknowledge the fact that not everybody that's in the situation is in the situation because they want to be or they agree. Some people are in it and don't even realize that they're there, that they've been placed there to specifically help bring the system down. You know what I'm saying? But again, when I say bring the system down, I'm talking about the system that exists within our own mind space and our own heart chakra that makes us think that the things that we see is not really happening. And the fact that we can disavow certain energy before that energy can actively be acclimated into our consciousness, we're always bombarded with other stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you never have a chance just to deal with the healing. You know what I'm saying? How can we as a community heal from what happened with Whitney Houston when they already, media, these white people already going into how much of a crackhead and a drug addict and all this other shit she is? And again, I wasn't the biggest Whitney Houston fan in the world. I'm not even on front. I ain't having her albums, but I, just like you, grew up in an era where a music that was developing was basically happening or culminating itself simultaneously when this woman was basically reigning in the arena of entertainment. You understand what I'm saying? So we talk about consciousness and metaphysical and supernatural things, yet we are still physical beings assessing these huge astronomical and astrosophical concepts that we are still struggling to remember how to do based upon how much we've been stripped, both based on the civilization, the situation that we live in, as well as the environment in total. So what we got to do, the knowledge is the fact that these things, if they continue to happen the way they do, then this is the precursor. This is the reason why the powers that be or certain energies or entities that manifest through them feel like they can do things like concentration camps and shit like that, because they can kill somebody outright. They can have somebody's body lingering around for hours while people are partying, the same people who say that they're supposed to be loving this person and everything. So, again, there is no loyalty. Let's talk about the fact that the last person that received that envelope or that letter to Brandy from Whitney was Brandy, right? and she happened to be sitting there on one side of Clive Davis, Monica on the other, and then the day after or before the funeral, they on Saturday Night Live singing a song called It Belongs to Me. This is kind of the same symbolic thing that happened when Tupac got shot. Coincidentally, Biggie came out with Who Shot You? You see what I'm saying? So are these things, is this art imitating life? Is this life imitating art? Or is this whole thing something else that we are kind of missing? When we deal with the occult and we deal with the understanding of how the occult manifests itself through metaphysic principles, you have an underground contingency within our community who feels like the metaphysical aspect that we grew up on in this consciousness is no longer relevant somehow, that the material acquisition of wealth is somehow more important or more significant to your spiritual development rather than you being honest with yourself or being able to look at yourself in the mirror every day and know that you got your own soul. These are the things that are paramount in the evolution of a being that is striving to reach a level of consistency, both spiritually and physically. You got to remember, man, we're the only beings in the entire universe, I think, to be who and what we are. You know what I'm saying? So based on that, we got to do the knowledge that if that's the case, then that means that we are the ones who dictate our reality. We are the ones who have a say in what we want our future to be. Yet if your future is predicated upon what was done necessarily, that is not necessarily done based on the past, but if you know that your future lies in the past and you have broken up the past into a this happened, then that happened, and this happened, you don't understand the law of time. The law of time itself is T factored by E equals art. Time factored by energy equates to art or artistic endeavor. Therefore, the artist or the entertainer is the one in society that helps us measure time. Therefore, like I said, when they killed this woman, or they killed Etta James, or they killed Don Cornelius, or they killed Michael Jackson, or they killed Frankie Valli, or they killed Tupac, or they killed Biggie, or they killed Luther, or they killed Ray Charles, or whoever it is. You gotta realize, like, these people, like, we're so in this thing now where we can't even accept somebody's death based upon what the media is telling us. We can't do it. You can't even take into account that when these people say that they're dead, they're actually dead based upon the amount of ritualistic and satanic energy that's abound with all of these people. I was looking at this thing called Lookalike Celebrities today, and these niggas, like, I'm starting to think that all of these people are clones of each other. Because some of these people, like, I looked at a picture of Zooey Deschanel, this white girl, and Katy Perry. It's like it's the same person, yo. It's weird. But again, when you really do the knowledge, if you really want to get in, when you really do the research on where and how this satanic ritual stuff starts and where a lot of these groups started from, most of these Hollywood people, most of these people that they're putting in your face every day as somebody we need to pay attention to, all either came out of the specific modes and control that developed in the United States, specifically towards the end of the 1800s, around the close of the Victorian era and the emergence of the so-called American Empire. This is when you get people who in England, well, let's look at the origins of it. Most satanic covens and most satanic organizations that started in Europe were based upon the voodoo stuff that Toussaint and them was flipping in France on Napoleon. Because they used so many energy, they used so much energy and so much collective wisdom when it came down to it, what wound up happening was that Napoleon or the powers that be in Europe started to realize that a lot of the things that the problems that they had in Haiti was really due to the fact that up until that time in Europe, they wasn't really going too hard with the spirituality thing, because certain aspects in Europe was about or Europa was about controlling people through things like religion. So different pseudo-religions manifested to kind of buck the church's influence that was rising amongst the Frankish Moors, amongst the who were attached to the Holy Roman Empire, the Catharian Moors, the Albigensian Moors, a group of Moors referred to as the Huguenots, the Hessians, the original Habsburgs that eventually got overtaken by the European Caucasian aspect and now referred to as the Habsburgs, of which Zsa Gabor is one of the last princesses of that line. Long story short, around that period is when a lot of the voodoo stuff, they was actually kidnapping. There's a book you could get called The Black Jacobins or The Black Jacobins by a guy named C.L.R. Lewis. And in that book, he talks about how a lot of old voodoo and hoodoo priestesses were actually kidnapped by certain French officials or Frankish officials and shipped back to Gaul and were put to the racks to teach some of these rising Freemasonoid Caucasians some of the rites. And then from there, they were able to create a version of voodoo that they all could somewhat worship and deal with that we will refer to today as satanic worship or Satanism. This was then put in practice by different people throughout society, throughout the world. Like there was a guy named McGregor Mathers, who is one of the original people, along with Eliphas Levi, who allegedly set up the original Golden Dawn, the original OTO, going all the way back to, like I said, the Victorian era. And he was a studier of the Marquis de Sade. The Marquis de Sade, again, was one of these French noblemen who was Caucasian, who got raised up in the process of the culmination of the empire and started to practice forms of sadomasochistic, sacrilegious, or sacrificial worship based upon what his people was getting and divining from these voodoo people that they was kidnapping and stuff like that. This is around the period that they became to start to understand that there was a connection between the sciences of the ancient world in terms of Kemet and in that. And this is around the time between when the war of the quote-unquote ancients and the moderns started, which really is a Freemasonic quote-unquote Moorish war that's been going on from then till now. But because alliances change generation by generation, we have forgotten the grand aspect of this conflict that we've been in for the past 6,000 years. Because we can only, as human beings, really grasp the last 250 years, and of that 250 years, rationally as human beings, we can only really project ourselves back maybe 70 years to, let's say, when our grandfathers and them lived. But you know what's happening today? We are now at a stage in history where the child, the parents, the grandmother, and the great-grandmother is all in the same generation. You understand? It used to be when you used to talk about your great-grandmother or whatever, you know, you're talking about somebody that's not necessarily even physical like that you can really grasp. You see pictures of stuff, but you don't really, know. You got to ask somebody. Nowadays, your grandma is right there in the same crib with you. You understand? So there's an aspect that is kind of crazy social when you look at it in terms of a social engineering perspective, but then when you look at it in terms of a archetypical racial perspective, that means that our race is progressively getting younger. And we're not even noticing. You understand? Therefore, if our race is getting younger, their race is basically getting older. That means that they're coming closer to their extinction than we are. So to make it happen, hold on, I got to step out of my company. Sorry. So we got to a point where, like I said, this thing has kind of collapsed in on itself, and none of these people have the ability to really foresee what they want. So when in doubt, fall back on the one religious practice that seems to work for them, which, again, is the satanic ritual. What we don't get is that this is their version, like I said, of our ancient mystery practices, our ancient spiritual dark practices. But what happened was that certain members of our black, or let's say archetypically Asiatic, indigenous, autonomous societies, when we began to go through the changes with each other, there were certain groups, religious groups or quasi-religious groups, who chose to totally, there's certain groups or whatever who chose to totally obliterate the underworld. And in the process of obliterating the underworld, they isolated themselves in a position where the darker, more intuitive deities that they were dealing with were no longer in a primary fashion. This started way longer, though, if you go back to the history of the El Armana dynasty, when Akhenaten, bless the dead, basically started flipping everybody into the Aten. But the Aten, or the Aton, where you get the term atone from, or the weight measure a ton from, is actually the physical representation of a metaphysical concept of the true you or I in the consciousness of what they perceive as the oversoul, meaning the grand soul that provides over all of the different alternative versions of you that exist simultaneously in all the different realities and universes that exist simultaneously at the same time. So on a quantum physics level, this makes total sense, but this is the first time in our history that we as original people have begun to apply this to ourselves in the physical now. And what that does is it creates temporal fields around us based upon this understanding of ourselves that conflict and somewhat contradict the perceived reality of the fact that we have no history. White people feel superior to black people because black people feel that they have no history other than slavery. You understand what I'm saying? This don't have nothing to do with reality. It has nothing to do with reality. It has nothing to do with the perception of reality. This has to do with what people want to be real. You know what I'm saying? Like what you live with is what you agree upon. So if you agree upon a lie, then that lie has to become true for you. Because if not, then you are agreeing that you're a liar. Nobody wants to be perceived as something that has a negative connotation on its physical reality, because that limits your access to higher vibrational frequencies of people who may be able to help you in a greater sense out of your situation. You dig? So that universal perception of, or that old adage of, well, there ain't so much I can do because, not one person can't really change anything. That's not true. Look at how much Whitney Houston has changed your life. Whitney Houston has changed more people's lives now in her death than she did when she was alive, just based upon how they kill her with this obvious ritual. You understand? People who ain't never give a damn, and I'm speaking for myself, people who ain't never give a damn about black celebrities being killed, or people who never would have thought of, oh, that satanic ritual shit, that ain't real. People who never would have thought that shit was real, when this shit happened, got activated, was like, you know what? Something not right about this shit. You know what I'm saying? And look at what it's doing. It's created another avenue now for people to deal with. So when you look at the whole thing, let's say as a grand theater, right, or a supposed ritual, but really more of a mode of behavior, you would find that a lot of the things that happen or dealing with that kind of line right up. So everybody was beefing, right? Everybody, you have certain elements of the media that's trying to make it like, you got certain elements of the media that's trying to make it like this nigga actually killed her. This nigga Bobby. They trying to make it like this nigga Bobby based upon him. Based upon him not being on it like that, they feeling like he killed her. What kind of shit is that? So then they're trying to say, oh, well, what kind of a man is he that he wouldn't go and actually be with his daughter at the death of their mother and all of that? What? What kind of people who would let this nigga Clive Davis sit down at the fucking funeral? Okay, let's say you don't believe that he set the whole shit up a ritual. Okay, let's say you don't believe that. Even still, you still need to kind of look at this nigga sideways for the fact that he told them to keep the body up there till the party over. Shaka Khan has sense. She ain't go. Aretha Franklin ain't go. Bobby Brown ain't go. Why? Because, again, with Bobby, this is what I mean about those of us who be on this shit just for reasons of popularity and those of us that's on it for real. You got to look beyond the apparent because whatever going on in your face is not the real shit, especially dealing with these people. You got to look at exactly what is going on and who is involved. And when you really do the knowledge to all of that, you'll see that there are certain spiritual principles that was lined up. You heard it here first on Super Heru Radio when we talked about how Whitney is the future manifestation of Nemes Bastet and how they found Nemes Bastet's sarcophagus, and the fact that eventually what we felt was going to happen, or what I kept hearing in my mind, was Whitney in her voice talking about these niggas is really sticking to try to put me in this old sarcophagus. They trying to ritualize me like that. They trying to put me in the old sarcophagus of Nemes Bastet and trying to put Nemes Bastet in the sarcophagus, the Egyptian sarcophagus that was at the funeral. Since when? Have you ever seen them use an Egyptian sarcophagus? Now, there's a thing now, big up to my man Optics. He hit me up on this, and we was going to talk about it earlier. There is a black mortician underground / priesthood of undertakers called the House of Anubis, AENUBIS. And their funeral homes, you know they down with it, because when you go in there, you see all of these different comedian artifacts, and they have all these statues of Anubis and shit around, especially around Atlanta, because a lot of these people came out of the Nuwapi and stuff when York was doing his thing. So there's a concerted effort in that, but the thing with that is most of them people is in that based upon them being in that profession. There's a chick on Housewives, Atlanta Housewives, named Phaedra, and she's the metaphysical and spiritual one on the show or whatever, and she's basically trying to get into that. And based on how she carries herself out, she married to a nigga named Apollo, okay? So you already know that there's some Easter Star whatever going on. But I'm using it as an example to say that there is a black priesthood now on the low in our communities that's rising up. Just like you have certain people in certain homes that do rituals with the bodies of your loved ones and stuff when they intern them, that go beyond just taking rings and shit off the body. I'm talking real. So, this is how that day that I get the picture of a doctor that come forward like in front of us. So I did the knowledge like, oh, okay, so they are going to do that. So what I'm doing in knowledge too, if we write and exact with that, and again, you heard that here first, and I always got to put it out there because, you know, it's a situation now where everyone is viable in that means. All of us are susceptible in that way because we're creating a situation where we are not taking into account that we are still being preyed upon. So they go to Bobby, focus on him as a black man, him and Ray J, and try to make it like two black men is the reason why she all messed up. Kevin Costner's career ain't been right since Bodyguard, since Dances with Wolves, because he's one of these white men who probably Osama, one of them white brotherhoods that actually like black people and shit, is trying to actually do certain things, and so they keep hating on him. The Bobby Brown thing now, when we do the knowledge to the ancient Egyptian incarnation of Whitney Houston, let's say if she is Nemes Bestet, as we have hypothesized, then that would mean that Nemes Bestet was a priestess and a songstress who did primarily hymns, because they didn't call them songs back then, called them hymns. She was protected by Bestet, but she was consecrated priestess of Amun. Amun, or Amun, is called the hidden one. He is also called the unseen one. So when this woman, or when Bobby Brown now, who is basically Amun to Whitney's Bastet, Nemes Bastet, that means when he was not there sitting next to Bobby Christina, Bobby Brown himself, again, is not there. But the space, the empty seat then is being filled or sat in by the spiritual aspect or the archetypical aspect of Amen, because he's the hidden one, because he is unseen, because he was not there. But just because he was not physically there don't mean that the spirit aspect of him was not. And I know something was up, because when he went there, they wouldn't let him sit next to his daughter, but also they stopped him because he came there with 9 people. Now there was a story or a hymn that allegedly, because now all of this info about Nemes Bastet is coming out all of a sudden now, and they're saying that she had a song called the nine Loves of Amen. So here go Bobby, whether he realized it or not, evoking a certain degree of spiritual protection based upon his archetypical frame, and then physically playing the ritual out where he is not physically there, but in the empty seat next to him is the spirit of this Amen, again, dedicated to Nemes Bastet, a.k.a. Whitney Houston, who is now there. He is now unseen. He is now hidden. Therefore, now he has to be castigated, because we cannot have a situation where this man actually has time to mourn, because we need to make it like somehow or another he's the problem, because we don't want black men and black women together. That's it. Think I'm lying? Billboard magazine put out an open letter to Rihanna and Chris Brown, and in the letter to Rihanna, they basically telling her that you cannot mess with this nigga again, because they recorded a song. So look at that. At the death of the primary couple is black music, because everybody at one time based their relationship on Whitney and Bobby, because they was the rebels, whether they was doing drugs or whatever. They ain't the only one. But I'm talking about what they represented. How many songs you heard? Niggas talking about, yeah, we wrote like Whitney and Bobby and all of that. So if there was all of that in whack, then why would niggas be bigging them up like that? And why would we feel personally invested in what they represented? Because they represented a black man, a black woman, and a black child. So why would a magazine that's supposedly unbiased dealing with music write an open letter to a black man and a black woman urging them not to work out their differences, urging them not to reconcile their situation? This is also symbolic in Chris Brown dressing up as Jam Master Jay on the Grammys and doing his thing, the same way that he dressed up as Michael J. when Mike died with that whole ritual, and he started flying over the crowd and all of that. All of this is symbolic of taking away the power of the heir apparent. The heir apparent in the Whitney saga is Bobby, which is why they say the night before or the day before they found Bobby in the tub asleep. Now, who falls asleep in the bathtub? Ask yourself that. You know what I mean? Like when is this going to get to a point in our history where things are reconciled enough where we can actually not only take time to mourn, but get to the bottom of what happened? And why is it those of us who want answers or who want to get to it are always thwarted or always seeing like, oh, you wasted too much time or you caught up in the wrong shit? And it's always like that until it happens to one of us or somebody in our family. So we got to do the knowledge to that, man. That this, again, is an attack not only on our childhood but on our history, which is why, again, Adele gets to rise up off of 2 rituals in which now she is the primary one, but they already working on her because they already came out with the sex tape. The Sanders just got a sex tape out already. So you already see where this is going. because these people feel that they can be involved in these things and these things can kill people and whatever, and because they're not physically there or physically involved other than the association, that somehow it's okay. It's not. So, what I was saying with the Life is Levy and them, because they patterned everything, like I said, from the Voodoo system and connected it to the Comesian system by way of the esotericism and the symbolism that was taught to them by the Moors, they initiated themselves in different Masonic rites that led to what they refer to as magical orders. One of these magical orders, the OTO, or the Golden Dawn, is the primary order that came to notoriety under people like McGregor Mathers and the Life is Levy, but went to actual prominence and infamy due to the acts of people like Aleister Crowley. Okay. So they created, like I said, this societal norm that fully okay, I don't have to, I'm doing this right now. I'll do that later. If you said thank you, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? So it got to a point, like I said, where systematically you're watching kind of replays of the same bad movie being redone over and over again because nobody is telling them, everybody is watching the same movie acting like it's a different movie, basically. You know what I mean? So, like I said, because we have nothing in our community that specifically deals with this aspect of American life, we are at a sore disadvantage because half the people in our community don't even realize that they are actually a part of this type of stuff, and they actually participate in it frequently, more frequently than not, but because they don't see any quote-unquote Caucasians in the wings or whatever, they think that this is somehow ability for them to grab power. So when people say that it's all about the money, that's true, but the money is really just a vehicle. It's not the money. The money, they print money. You understand? They're the ones who know. They're the patriots. They're the niggas who know how they flip this thing. They know that money don't have no real value, but they know that it's valuable to people. And the ritual of acquiring and the acquisition of that money is what allows the whole ritual of Western civilization to continue. So now that we find ourselves at the crossroads of it or towards the rapture, we are now, again, being inundated with all of these fantastic events that are used, again, to dissuade and distract us from what is actually happening, because your enemy understands the law of time. He understands that time factored by energy will equals art. So if he focuses on art or uses art as a means of distraction, he then can utilize the energy to manipulate time. We are beyond the stage of agreeing or disagreeing about this point, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. We are way beyond giving situations like this the benefit of the doubt, because there's been enough Valentine, Hemet, Blair, Daoud, there's been enough lectures by greats within this whole thing for over the past 25 years that have let us know that this thing is totally what it is. So how much longer can we or the society allow these things to continue in the present fashion? In any society that I would build around based upon that, we would have to have something in our intelligence aspect that would deal specifically with that aspect of the predatory nature based upon genetic necessity. These people prey on you genetically because it's a necessity to have an aspect of melanin, because having an aspect of melanin means that you have the ability to tap into the creative force going all the way back to prior to the Big Bang, in what the Kabbalists refer to as the endless world, or the Ein, the place where everything emits itself in the infinitum to such a degree that eternity, reality, fantasy, all are the same thing, and all actualize themselves simultaneously where there is no wants or needs for anything. This is what the Christians and the revivalists refer to as heaven, or what Martin Luther King referred to as the promised land, or what Moses referred to as the promised land, another Kabbalist. The journey to get there is either going up and down the tree of life or traveling down and up the tree of death, which is called the Qliphoth. The Golden Dawn initiates worship the black woman in the form of Nut, the sky goddess who was spoken of in Crowley's Book of the Law, that was dictated to him by Aiwass. Aiwass is actually an Egyptian term for the word was, W-A-S-S, which is symbolized by the staff of Set, held by a god of war referred to as Ra-Ha-Quit. Ra-Ha-Quit is Heru, enthroned with the solar disk of Ra, holding the staff of the Wasp, which is the staff of Set, sitting enthroned on the cubit throne or cubit stone, playing a grand chess game with Aiwass, the priest in panther skin, playing a game of chess with red, black, and green chess pieces. This is the ever-coming conqueror, or the grown version of a deity referred to as Harpocrat, which is the so-called baby Horus, which represents baby New Year. So, ritualistically, they worship through that, and they have a stele or Crowley referred to as the stele of revealing. The stele of revealing has an image of, like I said, the sky goddess, Ra-Quit, everything that I mentioned earlier. And under that, in the hieroglyphs, is the actual activation protocols to manifest. The story is Crowley was in the Royal British Museum after he had named himself the Beast, or realized he was the Beast, and was walking through when his wife, Rose, came across the stele of revealing, stele of Egyptian, of Kemesian deities, the one that I just described. But the number associated with the installation was 666. That's what they numbered it. So he took it allegedly as a sign for him, and then from there started to get into the activation of Aiwass. Now, Aiwass represents, again, melanin, black activation of cosmic molecular melanin, but it also represents the wasp, like I said, the staff of Set, which symbolically is the phallus of the enthroned Ra-Ha-Quit, but it's also a symbol of the unification of the three different aspects of Heru, which is Asar, Set, Asar, and finally Heru, which again is the symbolic nature of the grandfather, the father, and the son. You know what I mean? The generational lineage based upon the cosmic activation through the wasp, which again is the phallus, but also wasp is also translated into English as the term watts, W-A-T-T-S, meaning voltage. Because the wasp staffs are what they use to power the street lights and everything else that they had working in Kemet, the electricity. They used to use gold filaments to make it, and they refer to it as electron. And this electron, again, is used as the focal point for them to be able to actualize the cross current of reality by bringing the non-physical into the physical. All of these societies, again, Set. All these here, I can't hear over there, so I have to stay over here. Well, then, you got to come on here. So this concerted or direct element, again, is activated based upon how people perceive what's happened. So if you don't perceive yourself in an abusive relationship, then you're not in one. If you don't perceive yourself as being exploited, then you're not. Whether you are or not, though, again, is based upon your perception. Some people can work at a place, be exploited, and don't realize it until somebody else say, hey, they're exploiting you. And then when you sit there and think about it, you're like, wow, okay, they are. Then it's about what you're going to do about it. In this society, they don't teach you how to start your business. They teach you how to get a job. So it's a society consistently that appears that it's about entrepreneurship, but it's really about industrialization and human soul acquisition. So the more you slave yourself out, the more you got to slave yourself out. You know what I'm saying? It's not really a choice. It's part of the system. So any of us that wish to actualize something else have to do it in a manner that is consistent with what we have, our purpose is perceived here to do. However, due to peer pressure and things like that, the society wants your purpose to be what the society's purpose is. So it will naturally come back and conflict with that. You understand? So like I said before, things like family court and these things are not specifically built to deal with people who want to be there for their children. It's there for the opposite. So when you actually want to be there, then what happens is what you're basically doing is trying to get the whole system to rearrange itself for you, which can happen. Yet to do that, it has to come at the price of you making the clear delineation between you and it. And most of us don't. So like I said, when these things like these assassinations and ritual killings happen, we are the ones that are left with the hole in our community because these people, again, make more money. They said an hour prior to them hearing about this chick dead, they took all of her stuff out of the dollar bin and started hiking the price up 50% from whatever it is that she made. So who told them to do that? You know what I'm saying? Who gave them the green light for that? How did it happen so quick? I'm watching the whole thing go down, and I'm seeing these people talk to this dude, and they delivering the speech and all of that. They delivering the speech and all of that for the same thing. To Whitney. Prosperity. I say to the Heru family, toasting you guys with some nice wine.
And Eli, but Eli was here.
Word.
Right? Eli from Miami. Yeah.
So, like I'm saying, y'all, it's a matter of give and take. And what matters is how much you're going to take. So now is the time in your life, just like in mine and everybody else's, is when we need to start learning how to say no to things and knowing how to be exclusive. We have no again, insulation or protection in our society based upon us just being open and kind of out there for everybody's agenda but ours. You know what I'm saying? You dig what I mean? So in researching all of that, I started to peep some other things and some other old school rituals and assassinations that they pulled and started doing the knowledge to the homie G Code just put up Clive Davis transliterated C3 Live Evil Davis. You know what I mean? Also, divas. Black woman, you shouldn't call yourself a diva because a diva is a prostitute for the gods. That's what divas are. Divas come from a Hindu term called devas or divas. DEV always either means comes in forms where it manifests in things like develop or devalue, you know what I mean, to bring down. So when they're calling these women divas or the divas of history or whatever, again, what they're really calling these women are harlots of Babylon. All harlots of Babylon have to be initiated through the same system, and the current grand harlot is their Madonna. So the same way they had their Madonna usher in this grand ritual to kill these goddesses and then show the spiritual acquisition of the young goddesses, the young black goddesses, MIA, Nicki Minaj, manifesting the future of black womanhood that they want. They actualize the ritual in a manifestation where they can do that. That's why when Nicki Minaj shows up with the Pope, they're showing you that this whole thing is an MK ritual. And all MK programs basically mean Malta Knights, so there's a Jesuit affiliation, because all of these things came out of the Society of Jesus. So whether they came out of the Children of God, or they came out of the OTO, or they came out of the Scientology, or they came out of Mormonism, or they came out of the Church of Satan, or whatever it is those people grow up with or grow up from in those systems, that becomes the basis of how they're able to maintain their society. So now we're talking about social engineering and the fact that now the ritual practice now is not so much about killing or all of that now. Now it becomes a functionary and primary system protocol to keep the reality functioning in the present state. So now it no longer becomes just about killing these people to divert attention or to distract people's motivation. It now becomes a means to grab people into a certain viewpoint where now they are aligning themselves to a certain form of thinking out of fear. Thank you, my brother. So like I said, this is now the ultimate rendering of the black community based upon, this is the ultimate rendering of the black community and the disenfranchising of the original Asiatic community from its true inherited future. Because it's not about stopping us now, stopping who we are now. It's about stopping and thwarting us for what we could be and what we can be. You understand? It's the potential, because the edge of the mind is where the imagination exists, but that's also where an aspect of the mind and the soul intersect, which then this juncture point becomes a focal point of attack. And the mind is vulnerable there because the imagery that it's intaking, it's not filtering what's real and what's not. So to the average mind, the waking life or dream state and the actual sleeping dream state is simultaneous. It's not like your mind shuts off when you go to sleep. It's just certain receptors in the mind shut off to damper and cut out outside stimulus that allows you to go into rapid eye movement or REM sleep. That REM sleep, again, is activated by the melanin receptors that come online through the melatonin, through the tyrosine of the serotonin that's excreted through the pineal organ coming out of the locus coeruleus. So what I basically just said is that your melanin or skin, which is the largest part of your body, is just as intelligent as you are. It knows when it needs to heal. It knows when it needs to scab. It knows when it needs to absorb. It knows when it needs to release, whether you think about it or not. In the event of you being in a hostile situation in terms of a cold environment, the blood will rush from your extremities and go within the center core of yourself to give more energy and pressure and magic back to the brain. When a man gets an erection, the blood rushes from his head and his feet directly to the penis and the testicle sac, which raises it to a 90-degree angle. one of the only things in the physical planet that can do that by itself. Therefore, it's hard for men to discern in instances like that what is right and wrong, especially when the penis is the dominant factor where all the energy is going. The body is going to follow the penis in a lot of cases, unless the man has developed himself enough to the point that he can say no. But saying no should not be necessarily because you don't want to, because of what the woman wants. It has to be what you want to be as a man. If you want to be faithful, then you will. If you want to be monogamous, then you will if you really desire monogamy. So monogamy is a forced expectation on men who are the most virile on the planet, based upon, again, Western civilization. But it has nothing to do now with that man and that woman. That's their relationship. I'm talking about the applied expectation of what monogamy is. But monogamy, again, is an integral part of Western civilization because it can create a financial aspect through things like marriage licenses, divorces, things like that. And so because they use Disney to help sell the dream of the wedding, the bride, which is actually a Kabbalistic concept, which represents the potential of the future world, is put in white to represent an untouchable fashion, an unachievable goal. Because anything white in a color spectrum is totally vacant and void of light. The light that we perceive as illumination can only manifest out of the dark. If space was white, you wouldn't see anything. But color frequency and melanin activation is all attributed to perception of one's interaction with the world around them in a cultural and genetically relevant state. The same people who work to destroy nature's balance with humans are now the same people who are defining what humans are and blaming you for the destruction. And yet people are producing that. And so the ritual to do this has to be maintained. And so other aspects of that have to be employed as well to show the balance that they are dealing in Ma'at. So just as you'll have white people eating black kids and raping them and killing them and whatever, you'll have white people who are going to places like Africa and flipping everything for those people over there, going to Uganda, the same people. But the thing is, these people are descended from the same people who went over there and screwed it up in the first place. So we're talking about a generational operation of national destabilization based upon genetic obsession as well as genetic harvesting. This is why you don't see no rich black people going over to Eastern Europe buying no white babies, or no other race really doing that. The only race that really procure other nationalities as children are white people. Why is that? And why, if we say that that's coming out, or that's a occurrence in the world, that we are somehow, saying that these people are, helping us? I'm supposed to feel grateful. So you either get on a plane and go to Uganda when you live in Boston and right down the block, brothers is in need of bread and everything else. So long as the niggas ain't domestic, it's okay. We can help them. Because what you're seeing is the colonization of Africa by Hollywood elite who are being puppeteered by the so-called financial correspondents who run the studios, who are in bed with the other corporate national who run their corporations to destabilize the world financially and push everybody to the brink of World War V, which is the ultimate showdown between the United States and China, the great red dragon in the book of Revelation. So I'm just talking about shit that's really happening. But whether you perceive it as happening or not is on you. I'm not saying that you need to. I'm not saying that you need to stop what you're doing or go out and get conscious or whatever. I'm not saying none of that. I'm saying if you want to do that, do that. If you don't want to do that, don't do that. But make a choice. You understand what I'm saying? The problem is nobody making a choice. Nobody's standing up and saying that something is wrong. Everybody want to point fingers and say it's this one, it's that one, and whatever. But then if these niggas was to come to you and offer you some bread, you take it. Because in a way, you'd be a fool not to. So sometimes in further analysis of understanding how things work, you will come to contradictory opinions and agree with both. That is a sign of unihemispheric thinking. That means you're getting to a point that you are being able to be open enough to absorb both perspectives, still rely on your own, but see the value and disvalue in both. That's Ma'at. That's Rahal Hewitt. That's Rahal Hewitt enthroned, holding the Iwas, playing chess with Iwas, who represents us with red, black, and green chess pieces. Well, because Crowley took this and then created some fake religion based on Satanism, which is a bastardized form of voodoo, based upon us not acknowledging our underworld deities, it became an issue because these deities take on different forms based upon your level of rising consciousness. This is the rising of Newt in us, the sky gods, getting to the point where you realize on Earth, like let's say the gods in the Earth, the man is the sun, basically the sky, and the woman is the earth. But in ancient Kemet, Nut was the sky and Jeb was the earth, which is why if they have any hope for a presidency or some white man to get in there, the only one they could get would be Jeb Bush, because he's already positively aspected and shown worthy based upon the whole shit they did down here in Florida with the voting thing and the disenfranchisement of the original people and his family's history and skull and bones of eating and raping black people. So because he's now a Jesuit knight, there's pictures of him knighted. So a sitting governor of the United States was knighted by a foreign power. And it's all good because he's a white man. And I say it's all good because he's a white man because white people allow these things if white people do it. Because if they didn't, then it wouldn't happen, right? That's what I thought. So all I'm saying is, if it quack like a duck, and shape like a duck, it's a duck. So whether or not you put a voice module in the duck and a microchip in the duck to hook up to the duck's esophagus and then remote control the duck through your iPad phone or whatever and make the duck crow like a rooster, it still looks like a duck to me. It just looks like a duck with a with a remote control grasped to his neck. You know what I'm saying? You understand? So we're talking about, again, different forms of these continued results manifesting the same way. It's the 54th Grammys, that's 9. She's born on August 9th. You know what I'm saying? She dies on the 11th, that's 9/11. So because these 9/11 numbers and these 222 numbers keep coming in, then on the Illuminati card game, there's the card with her on it that has the numeric value number to the time of her death here in this reality. This is probably why they tried to lock the Illuminati card guy up. Or at least that was the story. You know what I'm saying? But there's a card game called the Illuminati playing game, and there's a card called the Pop Star, whatever. And it's a woman who looks just like Whitney Houston, and behind her, instead of it saying Billboard charts, it says Bullet Board charts. and I found a picture of her juxtaposed with that when she went through her blonde phase, because all of these Monarch program and Porcelain program, these go through a phase where they go through a blonde phase. They go through a blonde phase, then a black phase, then a red phase, then maybe like a multicolored phase or a brunette phase, in which then they go back to the blonde phase, like with Mary J. Blige. You know what I'm saying? Or Little Kim. Because each hair color in their little fake ritualistic hierarchy thing represents a different mode of control and sphere of influence. So the blonde is the German Jew, and the brunette is the white Protestant, and then the black is the mixed Italian, Iberian, Sicilian, Italio-Frankish. You know what I'm saying? Then the multicolored is like the demonic influence, specifically, when they go through the period where they get all of the voices that they got to start to control, because there's so many voices in their head. But what they don't understand is that those voices are actually their voices of their alternate selves that are now bound to the same contract based upon what happened in this life. So you sell your soul in this life, you sell your soul in the parallel life in some way as well, and then this becomes like a virus that manifests in the bloodline of the astral cells and the alternate cells that then travel back up to the oversoul and then pollute or dilute the potency, spiritual potency of you as an eternal being. Is that worth a Bentley? Is that worth a gold chain? Is that worth breaking this girl or trying to make her have sex with all your people? Is it worth trying to break this nigga's pocket because you know he really liked you? This is how we contribute to all of that. White man ain't got nothing to do with the last couple of things I was talking about. But it's like, how real do you want to keep it? Because people look at you and based on what they think you are and how you're supposed to be, but that's how you're supposed to be. So again, I got locks, I got charms and shit in my hair. I'm supposed to be with a white girl. I'm supposed to be, modeling and all that. And there was a point where I put my foot in that. Meaning I went for a job, was paying pretty cool, and went there, and they wanted me to model boxes. Like, okay. But then when I started seeing the other people in the show, I was like, okay, let me just get my bread and be out. That's not for me. But it worked at that time. Which is why now in the future I don't hate on people based on what they used to do or who they used to be. Is what you doing now. Are you doing the same shit you doing now that you was doing back then? And if so, is that still altering your perception? Have you dealt with all of that? I learned very early in my life based upon my family situation and my form of MK programming that people refer to, quote-unquote, that we all call growing up in the hood. And I had it good as a kid, better than a lot of kids. But it still don't mean that whole cotillion that I had to go through had a whole history attached to a certain order that my mother and them was a part of, that they act right now when I bring up or trying to get to the bottom of, they don't want to talk about. That ain't the white man doing that. So again, if that could be my mother, that could be yours, that could be his or hers. So again, I can't judge these people or that generation for what they didn't do. All I can do is point out what they didn't do and why I'm doing what I'm doing. But when you ally yourself with outmoded forms of structures that try to impose outformed or misformed informative dialogue, it pollutes your potential to be able to discern what's really hood, because you now have an obligation to another soul other than yourself that's not necessarily from your family, that you are adopting, and in that adopting their ideology as well. So if you see them kill this black man or whatever, and then, Rich would do it, you got to keep that secret, no matter what that do to you, conscience-wise. A brother put up something on the Facebook that showed all of the movies with Martin Scorsese calling black men niggas and killing them and beating them to death. all while playing music reminiscent to black people in the 50s, when it was okay to call niggas niggas and all that. The Valettes and the Crystals and these groups. When they could just take a black man's black woman publishing and do what they want. Clive Davis family, them people. So again, Bobby Brown ain't there because Amen is not supposed to be there. You're not supposed to be able to see Amen. Amen is hidden. That's the melanin. That's the shit that's so powerful. It's in your face that you deny every day. You deny that it's a sentient being on top of you that works with you to keep your abstractions intact. That's why you can't see your body from the inside by yourself unless you close your eyes and meditate. You can go to any part of your body and heal it because your consciousness exists in every part of your body and every cell in your body. That's why they could take a fingernail and try to grab somebody from it. But when I was coming up, it was called test tube baby. Now they call it in vitro fertilization. It's the same thing. It's a clone. So they rather you believe that aliens is coming to kill you and all this other shit to take you over than to come clean and let you know that all the technology they've been dealing with is technology they seized from the same Nazis that they brought into their government and allowed to create experiments on your children and your children's children and your children's children's children, all to betterment, all to better the country. But what country are they talking about? They're talking about the undiscovered country. They did a movie called Star Trek did a movie called The Undiscovered Country about the destruction of the Klingon Empire. This is the Moorish Empire. And or the waning days of the Klingon Empire. And the undiscovered country essentially is the endless world that exists on the outside of creation around the big planets like Arcturus and Rigel and Regulus, you know, the giant worlds where if you 20 feet tall, you short, you know. So outside of that is the all. And there are a group of subordinate deities that want to keep the all focused on them. So just as 2012 is supposed to be the year of, resurrection, destruction, 2014 is supposed to be the age of resurrection. This is where the whole mythos of the Machiavelli return is coming in. And a calculated date, when you read the Prince Machiavelli, if you really read the book, I mean like the real book, don't get the book that's out, like that's published by Oxford or something. Go to the library or whatever and get the real book. Get one if you can that's published prior to 1890, because they use words like more and all of that in it. It's more direct about us. So Niccolo Machiavelli talked basically of a plot that was employed by a Medici prince, the Medicis being the last Moorish family connected to the Braganza family of Moors from Portugal, or the port of Gaul, as well as Corse, which is Corsica, with the Grimaldi family and the Grimaldi Moors, who were the initial founders of the place they now call Belgium and Luxembourg. So in that, he talked about the plot where the Medici prince at 25 faked his death and returned at 43. So that's 2-7. So if anybody knows about the OTO and Crowley and all that, they always deal with the 777s or 222s, 555s, 666s. You know what I'm saying? So that's a form of doubling up intent. When you look at a lot of people who are under ritual programming and you look at their astrological charts, you'll find certain signs where you'll have like a Aries, you'll have have 5 planets in Aries, 5 planets in Taurus, 5 planets in Gemini, 5 planets in Cancer, 5 planets in Leo, like in order like that, in extreme succession like that. That's an indication of some sort of ritual at birth or prior to birth, or something happening in the arcane realm. You would have to check the 12th house, the 12th and the 8th house specifically. 12th house being the house of secrets. 8th house being the house of death and regeneration. See what's in there. See what's going on. But when you do the knowledge on Tupac now, he, bless the dead or not, he gets outed allegedly in 25, right? But in 2014, you know what I mean, he'll be 43. Now, 14 is a number synonymous to Osiris, being he was cut up into the 14 pieces. Also, it's connected to the process, alchemical process, or genetical process of carbon-14. You understand? So, carbon-14 is the process of which things die and regenerate and die again and regenerate again. So it's a symbol of that. So Osiris being the lord of vegetation and being lord of both the waters and the land, the 14 pieces or the 14 things represent the 14 elements that correspond to this process of life and death. Therefore, the succession of numbers, the double, the triple seven, come into contact during the time that the occult orders did a ritual called the Babylon working on a U.S. ship called the Eldridge, which allegedly was the same ship used in the Philadelphia experiment, where they were trying to deal with a cloaking device and actually stumbled upon a time alternate device. So in this process, all of what they did in that working was to produce the spirit of the harlot of Babylon in the subjects that they used during the ritual in the form of insemination, and then the harvesting of them at certain points in their life through ritual killing. So some people who get into it to a point where that becomes they have like options. So you'll sell your soul, you'll sell 10% of your soul, like with the option to receive a portion, with the option to sell the rest if you are able to come out of the limelight through a instance. So you may get like Kennedy, or like Reagan, you may get shot, but you won't die, something like that. You know what I mean? Or you'll have specifications on how to do it. So in somebody like Tupac, you can see something like that going down. So when you do the numerical value on him, at 2 and 5 is 7, 4 and 3 is 7, 2014 is 7. So that's a double 3. It'll be 18 years, let's say, between the time that this person was allegedly killed and the time that people are predicting him coming back, right? That's another 7 if you take 8 minus 1 per se. Or 9, which is born, you know what I mean? Which is, again, bring things into existence. So either way, it's kind of ill. So then, even when you get as ill as looking at the whole Seventh-day Theory thing and how he's going in, when you look at the data, like what happened, you would see that there's like 2, 3 different cards that they used in terms of the card that they was talking about. Because there's one instance where they say this nigga sped off and then left the whip, and it was a BM. But then when you look at the police thing, it's a hatchback. You know what I mean? It's a BM like hatchback instead of a BM coupe. You know what I mean? Or SL or whatever. Then there's the story about the helicopter coming, picking him up, and then, the next day the video coming out, Wonder If Ever Got a Ghetto, where he's bandaged up going to a place in Mexico, related to him in terms of where the original Tupac came into existence. So there's all of this. So when you look at the barcode on this shit, it was 099923581024. So there's a possibility that those numbers then bust down to dates as well. You know what I mean? Which would be, the 666 would be 18, so that would be 9. And then the 2 plus 3 would be 5. Or if you did 2 times 3, that would be 6. Right? Then if you did the the 8/5, that would be 13. So that could be Friday the 13th of 2014, whenever that is. You know what I'm saying? What I'm showing or want to show everybody is I'm not necessarily predicting something or predicting that this is going to happen. What I'm saying is that people are giving energy to entities that use the people's energy to resurrect themselves by associating themselves with Christ and the ideological aspect of black people having a Elvis type of archetype that can regenerate itself in the future. So is it plausible? Yes. You know what I'm saying? Is it going to happen? We'll see. But it won't just be him. It'll be everybody in the proverbial sense that was said to be that within your own life, within your own past lives, because now this will be post a 2012 world. Now remember, they've been hyping you up that the end of the world is going to be on December 21st, 2012, but now they're automatically, people have put projections beyond that, people who are not them, people like us. So when you do the knowledge, like I said, to the ritual killings and how these people get in and get taken out and then others take their place and all of that, you're looking at the whole relationship between the emperor and the apprentice that you saw in Star Wars. It's the same type of thing. That's why all of these people who bathed in the blood of this woman and who did whatever little rituals they do over these women, a lot of these white people, you notice, will live. Whereas a lot of these black people won't, because that's not really the element that we're supposed to be in like that, doing that type of stuff. So whether they're a part of it or not, whether they know it or not, they know what's going on. Because every once in a while they get an invitation where they have to go and perform a film at a place called Lookout Mountain. Or they may be called to Area 52 that happens to be in Jersey. But we only hear about Area 51. Because Jersey is basically a giant industrial factory. You know what I'm saying? That's part of the model that they want to apply to Louisiana, which is why they're not trying to really fix nothing up. They want to eventually turn that, because there's oil under there, so they want to turn that whole region into basically a giant industry city and move the people out and bring foreign contractors to man it, while all the people is doing the manual slave labor shit. And the ones that's not is the ones that they take out or put in the gas chambers under Denver Airport. That seems to be popular now, people talking about. But, again, we was talking about this shit in 2003, 2001. You know what I'm saying? Like, people talk, but me and the Queen was there. Shit was such a way where we were supposed to be in the building. You know what I'm saying? But I was up the night before drawing buildings. Drawing buildings. It was a comic book. Still got it. And was up so late doing it that we overslept. But we were supposed to have a meeting there on the 77th floor, because at the time that was with the Queen had to settle her estate based upon them murdering her mother ritualistically and then trying to cover it up and then having to admit it. So niggas really talk and act like they know us or you, but we have been keeping this thing going on for a long time, man. And it's deeper than any of us, and even I understand, really. I'm grasping what I can enough to disseminate it enough in a way, inshallah, that people can be able to receive the sincerity of what I'm conveying. But at the same time, the only answers I could give are that which can be conducive to the individual, because I have not the resources as of yet to be able to establish something in the world that can do that, because even at the same time, if I just do that, then what? It can work, but it can't work with us all living here. You know what I'm saying? The only movement that has never fully been checked by this whole thing, since this whole thing went sour, is us right now. The so-called metaphysical community, people who look at things other than what is the apparent. So we're talking about a universal perception of how we can make ourselves better by acknowledging exactly where things are and how things got screwed up. So now that we've gotten to this point, and they've now got the straw that broke the camel back, it's a wrap for them. It's over. Whatever, again, sandstorm, flood, tornado, whatever it is, that's going to be the herald for the next level of their exposure, where they just start just being exposed, because now they got to get this in overdrive for whatever they're going to do in March. Hopefully it don't happen. And I be talking about this, I don't even want you to feel like I want this to happen, because, I want people to know that, no, man, I hope it don't. But if it do, or when it do, just know that this is, again, the window dressing for this whole Iran thing, which is really not even about that. It's never about what they talk about, man. Whatever they telling you, whatever they telling us is always a lie, man. It's always a lie. It's never true. Never. Never. No matter how true it is, it's never that true. Because they're not giving us the ultimate truth, which is why they hate us so much. Has anybody ever asked them that? Ask a white man. Ask a white woman. Why do you think white people hate black people so much? Ask them that. Honestly. Without the race shit. Ask them. They'll tell you. They will tell you. You know what I'm saying? First, they'll be shocked that you even could ask them something like that. So you get the ones that'll act offended, but then answer you anyway. And then you have the ones that'll answer you on something like, wow, I never thought I could, And then they'll ask you something. Because that's all they want. But because of busing, and because of ghettos, and because of segregation, and because of all of the things that we have grown up believing were models for us to measure our progress by, all of that was like you reaching the top of the cellar door, right, from the bottom basement, and then you open the cellar door and realize you're in another basement. That's America. That's life in America for us as original people. I don't give a damn how much money you got. I don't give a damn what you think, how white your husband is, how black your children, how white your children are, how whatever. The powers that be can only recognize you in a colorable fashion due to the colorable law that runs the land. It has nothing to do with you as a black man being a nigger or not being a nigger or being what they perceive a nigger to be, whatever. You are always the suspect because you at any time can realize what's happening and wake up. So you have to be under 24-hour surveillance. All black operations money go to locking us down. It has nothing to do with Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda works for them. They know that. There's millions of YouTube sites on that. So all of these people are crazy. All of these people who spend all of these hours in the day making all of these little YouTube clips and all that, all these people are crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's not healthy to believe a lie to such a point that you will die for it. It's not healthy to do that, man, because you limit your possibilities to be able to acquire something greater for yourself in the long run. So essentially it becomes down to what you guys want to do, And that's the problem. The more these people create these different contexts of information, this information becomes very, very habitual, and it can drive some people crazy. You have to understand that. You cannot be on the YouTube every day watching 50 million people with 50 million varying opinions about a certain subject. That's great, and to absorb all that, but understand what your opinion and your viewpoint is first. Establish that within your own psyche first, so that way when you see a blind, meaning something that's written in it to make you feel inferior, so they'll write the word free whites of the South or free white persons of the South in antebellum South, and because you believe that the word free white is associated to white people, Caucasian people, today, that means that's who they were talking about then. When back then they were talking about your people. That's a blind. That's a spell. That's using spelling to create a being that will create a hive mind mentality that will produce drones to extract nectar, you understand, from the flowers in the Garden of Eden. Guess who that is? Your consistent viewpoint and how you achieve on whatever level of maturity you have it is relative on how much you're willing to grow and how much you're willing to allow yourself to hear others' opinions, add them onto yours, respect them, but still maintain your own ideology. This is where manners and etiquette come in, because when you're disrespectful in the information, then you can come off more aggressive or narcissistic than you mean to be. And because we live in a era of intellectual jousting, right, entertainment is a certain value that is given to this thing, so people want to see a degree of conflict the same way you would a kid and you would read a comic and then you would hypothesize with your friend if Thor could beat the Hulk or if the Hulk could beat the Thing. Like when that comic came out, when the Hulk punched the Thing's rocks off, like that was real big in the hood or in my neighborhood, you know. But when I went to school, you know, I saw other people that was into that, understood that. So then that kind of put me in the context of a different level and different varying opinions of what these characters were back then, which were just characters. But really what we were discussing and building on was, can an immovable force stop an unstoppable object? That's what we were debating through the Hulk and the Thing. You understand? So, like I said, it really becomes a situation that doesn't allow itself to prosper. So once we create the view where we don't have a situation where we allow people to poison our overall atmosphere, things will be good. But discernment comes with self-analyzation. You know what I mean? Let's see if we get a call. 336, Super Heru Radio.
Peace, my brother. It's Luke.
Peace, brother. How you doing?
I'm chilling. How you doing today?
I'm all right, man. How you doing?
I'm chilling. I was just listening to you. It's the first time I called in or whatever, but I was going in on your show when you was talking about the comics and whatnot. You know, the Hulk is one of my favorites.
Yeah, man, that's what I
Yeah, you know, because that's the ultimate expression of melanin, in my opinion, you know. It may not be other people's opinion, but, yeah. And you was going in on it, immovable objects. Yeah. Yeah, the Hulk is, you know, always been my favorite character. Next to the Black Panther, of course. You know.
Yeah. They kind of married the Storm for a while, and then they all split it up now. Now they done turned him into Daredevil now. He done lost the kingdom, got invaded, lost everything. She joined the Avengers. Like, damn, you can let these people be together? Like, Mr. Fantastic and Miss Fantastic together. Like, they just got married, but they can't have us two together too long, like Bobby and Whitney, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. You know, you never see, and I've been watching, you know, I do a lot of movies or whatever, you know, I be going in on them, and you never see, you know, a lot of, you know, the black characters hooking up or having, you know, happily ever after, you know, whatever is always the Albion, and, you know, the happily ever after, you know, usually the more the sister, you know, they get killed or whatever, you know, and they had to go off by themselves or whatever.
Friend.
Very seldom happily ever after, or get with the white man. You're right.
But she's fat, but she's a dyke, but she got the white man, or she in a wheelchair, or she can never just be a regular black woman with her own hair. And if she do have her own hair, she got to be with a white man. So it's ultimate. But see, the thing is, these sisters is taking the roles. They're doing it. So one hand says they got to eat and they got to do their craft. That's true. But they all got enough money to put their own money in the shit. But they ain't going to do that. Because even if they do their own shit, they still got to do shit that's reflective of the agenda, which is showing us an inhuman state. Like when Tyler Perry dresses like a woman, that is psychologically damaging to black boys. Psychologically damaging to see them being put in a feminine context due to the fact of the erosion of black male role models purposely, but also in a future aspect. They're seeing that the only way they can get success is by doing that.
True that. True that.
So they are perpetuating the same thing that they're giving themselves images awards for. So come on, Martin, you need to do Big Mama again. You're doing it 3 times now. You want to do that now? You and Jamie Foxx want to do one with Shanae and this one together, again, making black women look like monsters, as if in some way saying that if a black woman is dark-skinned or if she's a certain complexion, that she's not human or that she's not beautiful. This is what these men are doing, and these women is co-signing. So you notice as soon as Monique lost weight, she lose her show. The minute that she becomes conscious of what she did, and she got her Oscar, but she got her shit and bowed out. If you notice, they ain't really talking about it. They show reruns of her show. Because now that she done lost weight and she's now more appealing, now she's trying to do other shit or become more conscious on her shit. They take her off the air the same way they did with Arsenio. As soon as he had Farrakhan on, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Who runs the studio? Jews. Who's at the head of the studio? Jewish people. Weinstein, Levinstein, Bromstein, Armstein. All of these niggas is Jews. So if I say that Jews run Hollywood, how is that racist? That's true. When I say Jews are, Bernie Madoff was a Jew. Charles Russell was a Jew. I'm not saying that all people who call themselves Jews is down with the agenda, but what I'm saying is in some ways you benefit from it. They not treating the Falafel Jews in Ethiopia the same way they treating the Israeli Jews in Israel. They live in the ghetto. They got to fight for their own rights. They try and kill them too. But they used them to legitimize their rule when they took Jerusalem from the Arabs, that they now having to pay for now because the president won't go in there and force them to split it up and give them Palestine. So that way the United States could use Palestine as a staging ground to get further in at Russia and China. Like, it's all G, man. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all G. That's why I feel like we don't have nothing to worry about in that shit, man. For real. Like, it's
yeah, you're right about that. It's over for them. It's over.
It ain't these Illuminati niggas, all of these people using these words and these names and shit, and I'm talking about the real people, but the Collinsons and the Bilderbergs and the Hildebrands, you know what I'm saying? These people specifically, you know what I mean? These people ain't trying to stop us. They don't want to stop what we doing. They want to see if we could get to that point. Because the same way we got people working against us, we got people putting in work for us, whether we know it or not. Because that's why I feel like we still here. You know,
exactly.
So
they couldn't exist without us under no circumstances.
So who's to say if this reality is really an illusion, that they're not a figment of our imagination? That's why I be telling people, try it out. Ignore them when they talk to you, see what happens. They almost want to force you into talking to them.
Exactly.
It's a genetic difference between us and everyone else on the planet, and that's how it should be. The genetics of a butterfly is not supposed to be the same genetics as a fly, because each one of these species on this planet represents an alien intelligence in a pre-pubescent alien form in another reality, in another planet. So this is where they basically come to grow from this stage of pupa to amoeba to whatever, to become what we talk about as arm, leg, arm, head. If you understand creation as a manifestation of evolution in the creative state, as opposed to making them two different things. Only an idiot would do that. These niggas talk about church and state. There's nothing in law that says that. There's a division in that. That's why they're able to do. That's why the priest could touch everybody, all these little boys, and not go to jail. But that shit is sanctioned by the cardinal who runs New York. That's why Nicki Minaj, again, the living host, the black hole, the portal for this satanic agenda, you know what I'm saying, is basically selling out all of the generations of black women that's coming under her. Because she does not want to be a human. She is showing these people and allowing these people to believe that you black women are not a human being. Because according to them, a human being is someone who lives and exists specifically within Western society. This is how they deemed it. Don't believe me? Read the Georgia Guidestones, man. Who paid for that? So that means what? I could just come up with a monument. I could just find somewhere, just put up a monument, and nobody ask no questions where it came from. How is it they do it? I can't do that. How come ain't nobody asking questions about that? That's what I'm trying to say, man. It's a wrap. And there's too many questions.
They keep trying to say, they don't know who put it up or where it came from or any of that, but they know. Through the knowledge, they know.
Exactly. And we know. And that's why when I said, when these niggas be doing their little songs, like when Drake was like, they know, you know what I'm saying? Like, listen to what these niggas be saying sometimes, man. It's garbage, but sometimes these niggas be trying to communicate, man. And the thing is, again, we don't take it seriously. We don't look at it like these things that people is out to kill us. We don't believe it.
And they're attacking our kids, man.
All the time. First.
They're attacking our kids. I'm not sure if you up on that Showtime show, Don Cheadle's show on Showtime, House of Lies.
Yeah, House of Lies.
They got his little son. He got his little son going in, straight gay. It's unbelievable how he participated in that type of degradation of our people, especially our kids.
Right. So I'm supposed to believe that him. Look, when you watch the movie Safe House, Denzel was a horrible character, but you like Denzel, so it makes you like the evil. And that's what they're using themselves for. They portals for spirits to work their way because they all possessed by legion. You're talking about the same demon in a million forms in all of these niggas that manifest themselves through the herpes or the syphilis or the chlamydia or whatever it is they pass around to each other that keeps them in the group. So that way they can only have sex with each other. They can't bring other people in. And if they do, they got to ritualize them and initiate them into the shit. So I'm supposed to believe that in some way now this ritual is supposed to be in some way helping me, helping my soul, making me a better person, giving me illumination. When you're showing me that you're creating a system where you're going to put a living woman, a living woman that you sacrificed, left in the tub for 4 hours, had people come upstairs, look at her, do rituals the same way they would do in a wake, while they was partying, while they was performing, and then afterwards close it down, and then what? Get an Egyptian sarcophagus that's just standing straight up in the ceremony, and then creates the situation where now you want me to believe you're going to put her in that one? No. You're going to put her in the one that you found in the Valley of the Kings, and then you're going to take the body that was in that one and put it in the one that you is going to bury, or they buried next to her father. That's what I think it is. And, again, when we talked about it when it first happened, or when we found that this manifested, all I was hearing in my head was like, yo, they're going to put me in this. These niggas are going to try to put me in this. In her voice, though, you know what I'm saying? I'm not crazy. That's not me. When I look at my altar, that's what I hear. That's not me making that happen. I'm not insane. This is real. Like, I'm having a spiritual experience. You know what I'm saying? But because what? She manifests as an orb or a flaming ball of light and some shit, I'm supposed to ignore it? Yes, because in Western society,
am I going to believe you or my lying eyes?
Exactly. Pee on my head and tell me it's raining. The same old story. That's what I'm saying. It's a wrap, man. That's why I said we good. We ain't got to worry about them. There is no them when it comes to us at this point because they don't already show their hand. So really, it's just us. All we got to do is do us. And shit will just kind of come in place around us. But we got to be consistent and adamant about what we decide to participate in. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. But prior to that, everything is up for grabs, man. Get your money how you can, but keep your soul in the process. That's all we can do, man. And then when the day come and the creator be like, yo, what you did to set this shit right, you would be like, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Exactly.
We got power.
Exactly, G. Exactly, man. It's a risk, man.
Do your ritual. Do your thing.
and not get caught up in them. And look at these deities as your ancestors, not as God that you have to give blood sacrifice to and give things that require the death of something. You know what I'm saying? Don't.
Same way you would treat yourself, treat these ancestors.
That's what
they're
I'm
alive,
trying to say.
just like we alive.
You are on.
Alive
that's what I'm
in
trying
us.
to say, guys. They're the Titan blood that's in us that was mixed with the blood of the God to create the humans. That's us, man. We at the point where we got that in us, so we are on the level where we can commune with them on a certain level of equality, because we are the only beings that can deal with the non-physical and physical realm. But we can bring the non-physical realm to the physical realm. Therefore, the time in which we have already been where we need to go has already happened. We've already done surpassed this time period and have lived through it and have seen the greater glory to come. We've already done it. We just don't remember because we are functioning under a literal time sphere that is sucking an aspect of us based upon what we don't know about ourselves and our genetic history. It's the years that they took out of the history that was also synthesized into a spell or a veil that allowed us to become unaware of the last empire that ushered in the one we in now. Everybody want to forget. Everybody want to say the Turks did it, the this did it, the that did it. Everybody but black people.
But we already wrote our own future. We done wrote our future. It's a wrap.
We done already done it. We already done it. We don't have to work. Like, we really don't, man. Don't get caught up. So when we're on the show, when we're talking about what's going on, people, it's a situation where you got to realize that I'm using these as examples. The same way if I was teaching you chess, it's different from me telling you about the pieces than showing you the pieces while I'm telling you about it. So if I'm talking about this devil or that devil, I'm talking about them in the concept of being the same devil, manifesting the same ritual, because it seems that people have forgotten and they don't see the simulacra, the symbolism, and how this is corrupting us spiritually. Because we don't have any spiritual apparatus in our community to fully deal with this aspect of our resurrection. We don't have the church, we don't have the mosque, we don't have nothing, because all of that is based upon the same demiurgical energies that require blood and sacrifice for you to be down with them. Christians do it, Muslims do it, the Jews do it. You know what I'm saying? That's not me hating on religion. That's not me hating on that, because I'm saying they all the same shit, because it all came out of Kemet. But Kemet, what I'm talking about, was over here.
Yeah, true that.
So it's like, they can't even say
the script.
You see what I'm saying? But because they created something called the Grand Orient, that these niggas who get knowledge and do lectures and stuff want to actually become a part of, they become part of the secret to reorient the consciousness to make you think that the top of the world is Alaska and the bottom of the world is Chile, when it's the opposite.
Big ups to Horace Butler. And
big ups to Horace Butler, Noble G. Ali, Runoko Rashidi, you know what I'm saying? Ivor Van Sertima.
You know? You're right.
He's married to a white woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes the dudes who do the illest shit be the ones married to the white. Be the ones married to the white girl. Right? Don't they?
Yeah, right.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But hey, again, I can separate the gift.
People, though.
Again, I can separate the gift from the rapper. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for calling, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you calling in too, my brother. Picking me up on the line. It was a great pleasure talking to you. Continue to do your thing. You and your fam. Ashe.
Ashe, King. Peace. Got time for one more. 516, you want Super Heru Radio? Anyone there?
Can you hear me?
Peace, I can hear you, brother.
Peace, man. This is Brother Ed from Strong Island.
Hey, what's up, King? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I wanted to ask, since it's like, basically a rap for them and all, like, and our national republic, it's technically abandoned. So therefore, it still exists. Could we still take it back? We could. But
it's called reclamation. It's called the process that they have for it is called reclamation. It goes from reclamation. Well, actually, it will go to revolution, to Cold War, to revolution, to reformation, to reclamation, to re-establishment, to then consecration. So in the term of, let's say, people, us doing something, all we would have to do would be to create groups where we would get together and elect our officials or elect who it is we're going to, start to pay whatever to, and then create an exodus visa between us and the United States, because we, as descendants of the indigenous nation, number whatever, has decided that we're going to reconstitute and reclaim our own government, the original form of, nationalistic identity. And then in the process of that, then it's just about establishing the regional base ship or governorship to who's going to, let's say, do you want to split it up into 13 zones like we had it under the old Monarchan Empire? Do you want to cut it up into 14 states like they did under the Iroquois Continental Congress? Do you want to section it off based on empire like they did with the Washita and the whoever? The first war that started all of this was the war against the Pequot, bless the dead. And the Pequot War was so official, initiated by us on the presumption of the fur trade. This would lead to the fur trade wars. But you had Moors and indigenous Moors going at each other who might have to make slave money off of whatever slaves they was going to, trade for fur or whatever. So it got to the point where the Pequot got so in it that after they lost, they split up the Pequot nation and put them into different aspects of the nations that existed at the time. So the original Pequot strain was put into those Moors that existed in the northeast region of the United States. So that's all of us that was born up and down the eastern coast seaboard. You know what I'm saying? So we constitute then the Lenape, the Yamasee, the Muskogee, the Washita, all of those under the grand, let's say, nomenclature as, in my view, Tomoakan, which then puts us in a context to be able to reestablish things based upon us uplifting fallen humanity, because that's what Noble Drawley and them left for us. But what happens is niggas get in court and they start talking about law, they start talking about U.S. law and not their own law. We got our own shit. Our Quran, their Quran got Muhammad or whoever, right? Their Bible got these people in it. Our Bible got Jesus, Moses, Buddha, you know what I'm saying, Krishna, like everybody. You know what I'm saying? And in that, this act that you can use that basically identify you with this national character associated to these type of people, which then disassociates us with the old United States, in which they have to accept your exit visa, because we are unifyingly reestablishing this. But because people don't like Moors, you see, or they don't like Kemites, or they don't like this one or that one, this don't happen. You know what I mean? So all we got to do is get serious about what we want to do, and it'll be a wrap. You know? So with that, we want to say peace, and thank you guys for tuning in and holding us down. If you want to holler at me about any of the classes we have going online or any individual consultations or anything like that, hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com, HOUSEOFEL @hotmail.com, or check out our website. We're updating it right now. But check it out. It's called www.aseer.com. Also, please check out www.sagaasaad.com. And again, bless the ancestors, bless the dead, bless you, Whitney Houston, Nemes Bestet, bless you, Bobby Brown, Amen, bless you, Harper Pratt, Bobby Christina, bless you as original people, us as the 72 people, witnesses who view the weighing of the soul. So that's what we represent. We all should get that stele or that glyph. First, the stele of revealing, the one with Newt and Rahar Hewitt and all of that. There's an image of it on my Facebook if you want to check it out. Aseer Ali Cordoba on Facebook. It's up there now, but then also you can check it out on, if you get an image of that and an image of the soul being weighed in front of us all. Get that. Do the knowledge to that. So with that, guys, we'll see you next Monday. And inshallah, be safe. If you need to holler at me, please do. Be well.